So I am doing the Legendary Pokemon book tag, and I was tagged by Sarah from novel Sarah-ndipity, and she also created the tag. So I will leave her original video in the description for you so that you can check it out, and I will also leave the questions in the description for you, and let's just get started. So the first prompt is Mew, your original favorite book, the book that started it all. I think I'm cheating a little bit, I've got 3 here. So basically I'm going to say the first book that I remember loving was Werewolves Don't Go to Summer Camp, which was a Bailey School Kids book, but I don't own that book. But I do have Aliens Don't Wear Braces, which I'm not even sure if I read this one, but I read a lot of Bailey School Kids books, and I remember being obsessed with them. So technically this one, but then I have 2 like older novels that I remember really loving and wanting to read other books like it and wanting to tell other people about it and everything, and so I wanted to mention those as well from when I was, you know, not 8 years old. So these were from grade 6 and grade 7. So Silverwing by Kenneth Opel, which is about a bat named Shade who gets lost from his colony when they're migrating somewhere, I think. I don't really remember. And he's with this other bat, and they come across like evil owls and cannibal bats, and it's really exciting and fun. So I absolutely adored this book, and I lost it. I think I lent it to someone and they didn't give it back, so I rebought it in like the same format that I had originally had it in, so that's why it looks brand new, because I didn't actually read this one. And then also Among the Hidden by Margaret Peterson Haddix, which this is actually part of a series which I didn't know of when I was younger. I found this out, well, quite a few years ago now, but anyway, I absolutely adored this book as well, and I remember trying to make a movie out of it with my friend, and it didn't work very well, but just these 2 books plus the Bailey School Kids in general are the ones that really stood out to me and wanted to mention. Next question. Mewtwo, a series where you prefer the second book to the first. Gemina by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. I really enjoyed Illuminae. I thought it was great, but I effing loved Gemina. I loved the second one so much. Oh, I loved it so much, so that's that. Zapdos, a book where you wanted a character to be struck down by lightning to never return. This one was a little hard for me because I don't like super dislike characters like that much. And so the only one that I could think of was Cardin. I really don't like Cardin at all. And I think the reason I want him to be struck down by lightning is because everybody else loves him and I don't understand why. And it just makes me more angry because I hate him and nobody else does. And I'm like, ugh, he's terrible! Someone just stab him in the face. Okay, now we're getting into Pokemon I haven't heard of, so I don't know how to pronounce their names, so I'm sorry, fictional characters. And I'm going to be mispronouncing your names. It's funny, I'm pretty sure I have a legendary Pokemon like card set that I have played with Anthony. But we never like said their names. We're like, I'm gonna use this Pokemon. Anyway, moving on. Moltres? Whatever. There's a flame next to it, so it must be like a fire Pokemon. A book that really got your blood boiling. Okay, so this one I don't own anymore because it got my blood boiling so much, so I'll post a picture here for you. But that's A Court of Thorns and Roses. I really enjoyed the first half or so of the book, maybe a little bit more than that. And then the second half was a little, I felt draggy and repetitive and cliche. And then there was the whole Resand issue that I cannot get on board with and makes me super angry. And I just couldn't, and I wanted to throw the book across the room. And just reading it and knowing what was going to happen in the other books made me so angry. I don't think a book has made me this angry before. So I don't have it anymore. I couldn't look at it anymore. So, that one. Articuno. Yeah. A book that you would wait for the world to freeze over before you got rid of it. I think it's funny too, it's not one of like my signed books. because I have some signed books that are precious to me. But The Night Circus, I have 2 copies of this. I have it in hardcover and in paperback, and I'm pretty sure you can't get it in hardcover anymore. So this one, it's one of my very favorite books. It's magical and wonderful and amazing, and yep, Lugia. A book that you feel has psychic powers. A book that really speaks to you on a personal level. So for that one, I went with Eliza and Her Monsters by Francesca Zappia, or Zappia. Not sure on that one, sorry. But this one, just a lot of the stuff that Eliza goes through, minus the being famous part, I feel like I have gone through a lot. I super connected to, and just completely 100% totally understood her. And a lot of it made me cry, so, because I totally understood what she was going through in certain parts of the story. Entei, a character from a book you wouldn't mind being your replacement father if you had to have one. So this one was a little difficult for me just because I feel like I haven't read a lot of books with, like, prominent father figures who are, like, standout, really awesome people. And I'm sure there have been some, like, YA contemporaries where there's been good parents and stuff, but nothing has really stood out to me that I really remember. So what I'm going with is Beck from Tell No One, because this was the first character that I remember falling in love with reading a book. Before reading Tell No One, I never understood when people said that a book had strong characters. I never felt for a character as if they were real, and this was the first time that happened to me. And I was in high school, and Beck is, I don't know, 32 or something, so he could have been my father. He would have been a young father, but he technically was old enough to be my father at the time that I read this, so I feel like that's the closest that I have. And I don't even remember why I loved Beck. I read this so long ago, but that's what I'm going with. Ho-Oh, a book that you love that you feel like no one even knows about. So I have 2 for this one. So one is Starters by Lissa Price, just because I haven't really heard a lot of people talk about this. I'm pretty sure when I first got it I had heard maybe 2 booktubers mention it, but I had never heard anyone say anything about it, and I loved it. Like, I read this in 2 sittings or something. I just sat on the couch in the basement for like hours and read it because it was so much fun and it was so captivating, and it was so good. It's about a future where adults can rent out teenage bodies so that they can do things that they can't do anymore because their bodies are too old. So like 60-year-olds or 70-year-olds will rent out like 16-year-old bodies so that they can go rock climbing or skydiving or whatever. And so this girl rents out her body because she needs the money. And so while you're getting your body rented out, it's basically like you're asleep, so you don't know what's happening, but she ends up waking up halfway through the days, and the person who's renting her body is doing something that's not good, and she's like witnessing some of it, and she's trying to figure out what's going on, and it was so good! My other book is Thin Space by Jodi Casella. This has, I can't remember how many reviews on Goodreads now, but not a lot. It's not popular, and it should be, because it was mind-blowing, and it just gave me goosebumps and made me super emotional, and I loved it, and I read it with a friend, and I recommend reading it with a friend because the conversations that we had about it while we were reading it were so creepy and intense and interesting, and it was so good, and I feel like it just bumped my reading experience up, way up, because I was talking about it with a friend as I was reading it, because I was just like, oh my god, this is blowing my mind! So, anyway, this is about someone whose twin brother has recently passed away, and him dealing with that, and also trying to find a thin space, which is just a thin space in the world where you can cross over to the afterlife world, or the afterlife world people can cross over to you, and so it's about him trying to find one of those so that he can talk to his brother again. But there's like so much more to it. There's so much more that happens that's weird and creepy and so good. So, Latias and Latios, a book with duo heroines that you absolutely adore that save the day. I feel like these are not fully an answer, but I guess we'll just go with Gemina and Six of Crows. Six of Crows has some female characters in it who I think are badass and awesome, and they are definitely contributing to whatever is happening that they need to accomplish. Without them, it couldn't have gotten done. So they're not the only 2 who save the day, but they definitely were part of it, and without them it wouldn't have happened. So I'm going to say 6 of Crows. And Gemina, because the same thing. There's 2 girls that are a part of what happens, and without them, it wouldn't have happened the way that it did. So, yeah, that's what I'm going to go with. And that is all for that. So I'm going to tag some people. Who am I going to tag? I already tagged Vanessa from Paper Fairy in the last video that I did, but I'm going to tag her again. Alex from Pucks and Paperbacks. And I'm going to tag Jen from Book Syrup, and I'm also going to tag Danny Darling and basically Brit. So you guys all have to do this fun Pokemon tag, and I hope you have a good day. Bye!